Hi, this is Rochelle, and you're listening to Box F1 Pod. Today, we're having a slightly belated chat about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the end of the season. Really sorry for the delay. I was traveling back from London and settling back in. I was hoping that during this time, we'd be able to get a lot of extra post-season content, like the Secret Santa video. Unfortunately, it will probably be posted literally the moment I publish this episode. Anyway, thank you to everyone for your patience. Sorry again. But before we get going, I wanted to give a quick explainer about the structure of today's episode. I'm going to be skipping the analysis today because, spoiler alert, it was kind of a boring race. I think we all sort of expected it. It couldn't really live up to the Brazilian GP hype. That was honestly the best race of the season. Not to worry though, still doing a race rhyme, and it's a bit more in depth than usual to catch all the major on-track moments, though there weren't many. And anyways, the majority of excitement was happening off the track, so the bulk of today's episode will be more like digital warm-up style and focusing on everything that was going on, all the wholesome moments, and predictions for any future drama that might result from the outcome of this race, but we will still cover final season results. So, without further ado, it's time for the race rhyme. Welcome to the final GP. We're racing in Abu Dhabi, but before the lights go out and away they go, there are a lot of goodbyes and a few hellos. It's Seb's last race, and we're all very sad. And to Mick, Nikki, and Danny, goodbye, lads. The boys all went to dinner, and it's giving all the wholesome vibes. The love for Seb is so powerful, it can bridge any divide. Or just get like an extra long table so certain people can sit on opposite sides. The weekend was so overwhelmingly a Seb celebration, you almost forget there was like a whole GP situation. Here are a few highlights, even though overall the race was kind of a drag. Max gets a great start, and then we don't see him till the checkered flag. Mick and Nick crash and spin like it's an on-track synchronized swimming routine. Seb and Alonso were both flying high until Alonso DNF'd due to a failing machine. And Seb was put on a strategy that was just like beyond obscene. Meanwhile, Checo fought tooth and nail to finish second worldwide, but after an epic battle with Charles in the final few laps, he was denied. I guess Charles finally got lucky, and Ferrari's strategy was marginally less sucky. Lastly, Carlos seemed to spend the entire race fighting for P4, and Lewis DNFs in the last lap. Has he no luck on Dubai shores? The race ends with Max, Charles, and Checo on the podium, but the real MVP is Seb, and his donuts give us a shot of serotonin. So what does next year have in store? Well, Danny Rick puts on the red horns once more, and it's the return of Nico Hulkenberg that no one asked for. Pierre replaces pasta with fresh croissants, and Fernando replaces Otmar with Laurence. Plus, we say hey to Logan and Nick DeVries. Hope 2023 Nicky will be able to get out of the car with a bit more ease. Let's not forget all the drama that's still a brewing. Will Ferrari get their shit together, and is a Mercedes success looming? But most importantly, Red Bull says things are chill, or are we being misled? Can the old Checo come to the phone right now? Oh, or is he dead? How is that for an end of season cliffhanger? See you in 2023. Get ready for a banger. Okay, time for the digital debrief. Do. That does not have the same ring to it. I can't have a digital warm-up for an entire episode though, can I? Really should have given this rebrand a bit more thought. Anyway, let's kick it off with a bit of race content. Lap 1, familiar faces. So before we dive into the results of the race, I wanted to cover some of the faces that we know and love that made it back on track for the last race of the year. Lawrence Stroll is back. Not sure that's a face we all love, but you guys all know that I have a fearful respect for Lawrence Stroll and how he lives life in 15-minute increments. Also, Scotty James, who, if you guys don't remember, is Chloe Stroll. Chloe Stroll, who is Scotty James is engaged to Chloe Stroll, who is also Lawrence Stroll's kid and Lance's sister. But Scotty James is also an Australian athlete, and so he's friends with Daniel, and he was there as Daniel's guest. But like, don't worry, there was like clips of him hanging out with Lance also. So he did his job with everyone. Also, Shaq was in Abu Dhabi, forced to ride a dinky golf cart, which is for sure a step down after his ride in Austin, which I still don't actually understand what that is. It's like a leather-lined boat. Don't know. But the shot of Shaq watching the GP with like a look of absolute total delight on his face is just everything. It's how I feel the moment I wake up on a Grand Prix Sunday. That's my face. I wake up with it. Also, George's girlfriend Carmen is there, and she's dressed fabulously, but George is still wearing his team kit. So I guess fashionable George days are over. Speaking of fashionable girlfriends, Lily, Alex's girlfriend, is also back, rocking some incredible outfits. And then speaking of girlfriends, Pierre debuted a new girl who's rumored to be his girlfriend. Her name is Francesca. She is a model, and I fully thought she was Lando's ex-girlfriend, Louisa. It's a bit of a shocking out of the blue paddock debut, like with no lead up, but hey-oh. Some other random celebs include the entire UK cricket team, Usain Bolt, and the wildest one of all, Usher. Usher was there in the McLaren garage. Must be the most random celeb sighting to date, truly. Okay, lap 2 results. So let's recap the final standings. The final results for the Constructors' Championship are Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Alpine, McLaren, Alfa, Aston, Haas, AlphaTauri, and Williams. The final results for the Drivers' Championship are Max, followed by Charles, Checo, George, Carlos, Lewis, Lando, Esteban, Fernando, and Valtteri as the top 10. And it is important to note in the drivers' standings final results is that George finished ahead of Lewis in his first ever season with Mercedes. And Charles finished second ahead of Checo, which was like the big remaining question mark. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But that was the ultimate fight left in the season. So a bit on the celebrations. We did get to see some celebrations at the end of the race. Unfortunately, both Fernando and Lewis DNF'd. Lewis DNF'd literally in the last lap, so the highly anticipated triple donut didn't happen. But Charles and Max donutted together. Is donut a verb? And then when Seb made it past the checkered flag, he also donutted, but solo, which was sad, but like he did it. Everyone was so happy. He got out of the car, and the cheers when he leapt up on his tire were just like insane, deafening. He also got to do a post-race interview saying thanks to everyone, that this has been such a special weekend for him and all, etc., etc. And like how this guy has become so beloved is just like beyond me. Like people adore him. So that leads me into driver of the day, which was officially Seb, which was duh. Seb was actually having an incredible race up until Aston changed their strategy and it all got fucked. That's not really why Seb won, but he won because it's his last race. But another thing I wanted to note was that it was pretty impressive that he managed to separate his emotions from the driving, not just in regards to the disappointing strategy, but also like all of this farewell Seb content that was happening that he had to like endure over the whole weekend. That's like a lot to handle, and then to also drive well. Really great. And then Mike Crack said that not only did he drive over 100%, he also stayed for the debrief after his race and gave full feedback of the car. Quote, armed with a glass of Jägermeister or something. Mike Crack sounds like a lot of fun. Also, was Seb actually just sipping Jaeger? Because that's a little gross. But in terms of actual performance on the track, I think Charles deserves driver of the day, or at least a shout out. He did such a phenomenal job. Luck was on his side, strategy was on his side, and then the way he raced in those last 3 laps, keeping Checo at bay the entire time. For sure, Charles deserves a shout out, and I pray that he gets the much needed break from the track that he deserves. Dick in the box, I'm going to say Haas. The way they treated Mick is just like abysmal. For anyone that didn't hear the post-race radio, Mick gave a very sweet thank you to the team and then went on to thank everyone who supported him, including his mother and his sister and then his dad. And his engineer responded, "We love you, Mick. Thanks for everything, buddy." And then I assume a little time passed, but Mick started doing donuts in celebration or whatever. And someone else got it on the radio. I don't think it was his engineer. It sounded different. And he literally just went, "Sorry, Mick, can you stop doing donuts, please? Seriously, I'm sorry, Mick, but we just can't. Sorry." And Mick just went, in like the saddest voice. He just went, "That's okay. I love you too." And he just sounds like he's gonna cry the whole time. Like, why won't they let him donut? Everyone else is donuting. It's just rude. And they're like, I don't know if I only heard the radio afterwards, not in the middle of the race, but it sounded like it came right after he like thanked his dad and was like choking up. And it's just like, guys, have a little tact. If anything, all of this with Mick has proven Haas has little tact. Anyway, Dick in the box is Haas. And I'll miss Mick. Okay, so lap 3 F1 news. Some unfinished business from last week. There have been further comments made about the Red Bull Civil War that's seemingly like came into fruition in Brazil. Red Bull posted a statement before the race that said, "As a team, we've made some mistakes in Brazil. We had not envisaged the situation that unfolded on the last lap, and we had not agreed on a strategy for such a scenario before the race. Regretfully, Max was only informed at the final corner of the request to give up position without all the necessary information being relayed. This put Max, who has always been an open and fair team player, in a compromising situation with little time to react, which was not our intention." Following the race, Max spoke openly and honestly, allowing for both drivers to resolve any outstanding issues or concerns. The team accept Max's reasoning. The conversation was a personal matter which will remain private between the team, and no further comment will be made. The events that followed from a social media point of view are completely unacceptable. The abusive online behavior towards Max, Checo, the team, and their respective families is shocking and saddening, and unfortunately is something that we as a sport are having to address with depressing regularity. There is no place for it in racing or society as a whole, and we need to do and be better. At the end of the day, this is a sport. We are here to race. Death threats, hate mail, vitriol towards extended family members is deplorable. We value inclusion and want a safe space for everyone to work in and enjoy our sport. The abuse needs to stop. Okay, fair statement. There was a bit of drama in there, as Red Bull tends to do. For example, using the words vitriol, abuse, safe space, deplorable. And also when they said that Max has always been an open and fair team player. Okay. They clearly don't know the flat brim to curved cap progress, because the honest answer would have been Max used to be a little shithead and he's getting better. Obviously, we will also never know the answer to why all of this happened. Max sort of pressed back down on what Red Bull said during the press conference, saying that he is a great team player, that him and Checo have talked, that he's a great teammate to Checo and they're good friends, and that like the abuse towards his family is unacceptable, blah 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 blah. The expected responses. I wish we got a bit more transparency, but you know, a girl can dream. I did enjoy after Checo and Max locked out the front grid after qualifying. Checo posted a picture of them together and captioned it, "Good job by the whole team and great help from Max in qualifying. Time to close a great year on a high note." A lot of people in the comments think like he was forced to write the great help from Max in qualifying. I think he's making a joke. I don't think it was forced PR. I think he's being a little shady. But I was entertained. I love a shady caption. So, after the race today, so Checo finished third, which also meant he finished third in the Drivers' Championship behind Charles. He was very cool, calm, and collected. But I do think the fact that he finished third, both in the race and in the championship, even if like today's race, it was more in part to Charles and Ferrari pulling it together, rather than Checo being let down by his team and Max, I don't really think he'll see it that way. And also, Checo is never going to be like an obvious villain. Like, this is going to be a slow build up. He's going to be subtle, and then when they least expect it, he's going to hit them. And I really think that the way Abu Dhabi finished solidified Checo's villain era and his reputation era, and I really don't want to continue bringing up Taylor Swift, but without a shadow of a doubt, Checo's soundtrack for next year is Look What You Made Me Do. For sure. It's like exactly what is going to be going through his mind, and I cannot wait for the drama. We also got the final pieces of the 2023 grid puzzle. Mick was officially let go by Haas before the race and replaced with Nico Hulkenberg. Like, seriously, F1 needs to stop trying to make Nico Hulkenberg happen. He's not gonna happen. He is not fetch. He also looks so past his prime. He looks like he's in like one of those sports movies, like feel good sports movies, where like there's like a new kid on the block and this old guy who like has outlived his days, still trying to like squeeze into a race suit. That's what he looks like. Hilariously though, Toto was asked about his thoughts on Haas letting Mick go, and he said, and I think this is translated from German, but he said that that's Gunther's management style. He comes from the mountains and the air is thinner there. You can't always think so well. Which is kind of hilarious. But also, side note, I read a New Yorker article about Toto Wolff, which had some like interesting tidbits, including Toto being super anal about the cleanliness of Mercedes toilets. I think he seems to think that it keeps their team less sick than other teams if they have their toilets cleaned like every 5 minutes. But the weirdest tidbit, weirder than that, is that apparently Toto's best friend in F1 is Alfa Romeo's team principal, Frederick Vasseur. Like, of everyone, him? That's so random. Speaking of Vasseur, sorry, this is double tangent now, but speaking of Vasseur, he's been rumored to be replacing Mattia at Ferrari. Mattia has said he's not going anywhere, and Vasseur said we'll find out in due time, which are two very different messages. But okay, we'll keep an eye out. They're still brewing. Like, these rumors are still brewing, so even though Mattia said he's not going anywhere, sounds like he might be going somewhere. Also, the very final piece of the 2023 grid puzzle slid into place like in the middle of the weekend. Logan Sargent finished 5th in F2 in the F2 final race and 4th in the overall championship, which gives him enough points for a super license and therefore means he will be driving for Williams next year. He's cute. He's American. That's cool. Also, we have the same birthday, December 31st. We are 7 years apart, but basically the same age. I just don't really understand why Mick didn't fill that seat. I feel like he has F1 experience and he makes sense. I get they had probably made a promise to Logan before they knew Mick was on the market, but it's still kind of shitty for Mick. I feel like Mick needs a chance, but very excited for Logan to come in and to see what he can do. Okay, lap 4, goodbyes. So Daniel's mom was there and she's still crying. She's been crying since season 1. Love her. Love his parents. McLaren also made cowboy hats that said "Yeehaw, thanks DR," and they all wore them throughout the weekend, which is very cute. He also got a big bear hug from Zach, which whatever. I'm still not made peace with Zach. Lando.jpg made a lovely Instagram grid post about how much he'll miss him. Lando also gave a lovely radio message talking about how much he'll miss him and goodbye and like all of that stuff. But my favorite tribute was actually from Daniel's .jpg Instagram. He posted a picture of Lando.jpg taking a picture of him and captioned it, "To my mentor behind the lens. This JPEG life wouldn't exist without you." I really love what great friends they are now. Like, I honestly, like, never thought I'd be here. I hated how much people pushed for their friendship to be a thing. But I guess once we, like, let them be, it just naturally happened. We just had to give it time. I'm gonna miss them. Daniel also got a special shout out from the team behind Drive to Survive, Box to Box Films. They posted a picture of his final interview and like super sang his praises because like they know, just as we all know, that as incredible as DTS is on its own, DTS's like success is really due to Daniel Ricciardo and that smile. The first shot of him, that like did it. Everyone loves Danny Rick. And now, like, this entire race, I've been like, this entire weekend, I've been like the emoji with the welling eyes, you know? All right. Okay, so next, Mick and Nicholas Latifi. So we like kind of all know that this is Nick's like last race. Not just like last race for now, but like last race. um, I'll miss him a bit. Like he's a nice guy, but like, well, I guess he's a nice guy when he's not spinning and causing safety cars. But even then, he's a nice guy. um, but like we all know, he's not really coming back. He got a few tributes, but it was nothing compared to everyone else, unfortunately. Um, and the biggest hole that he will leave is the Nutella sponsorship. Who will carry that mantle now? Who? That's so important. Actually, though, I really love Nutella. Used to go through 2 Costco jars of it in like a week. Anyway, Mick has obviously been like a really sad goodbye. He got a lot of lovely tributes from team principals, from other drivers, his own team. Everyone seems kind of sad and confused why and how this is like the end of the road for Mick at the moment. For now, it kind of looks like his next role is as a Mercedes reserve driver, though it has not officially been confirmed yet. And obviously, the worst part of this weekend was the infamous donut incident, which we've already discussed, and which was the reason why we awarded Haas the Dick in the Box award. It was a total disgrace. Let the kid donut. Speaking of cute Mick moments, though, all the drivers were asked who they want to win the World Cup, and Mick just went, Seb Vettel, giggled, and ran away. Love him. All right. Then there's Pierre and Fernando, who aren't leaving, but they're like just moving teams. But there was still like quite a bit of farewell involved as they did their last race with their current team. There wasn't much of a thing made about Fernando leaving, at least not that I saw. I'm not sure he's leaving on like the best terms. I did think it was funny. It came out before the GP that Alpine had threatened to replace Fernando and Esteban for the final race if they didn't behave, which I did not know was a thing. But I kind of think it's hilarious that they were threatened with literally getting 2 new drivers and paying whatever it took and just like putting them in timeout basically. Pierre, on the other hand, got a bit more of a grand farewell. He got a full like team clapping moment as he walked to the grid for the last time as an AlphaTauri driver. He also did a last podcast with Yuki. I love that they were asked to say what they learned from each other, and Yuki said he's much better on track because of Pierre, but also he really loves shoes now. We also learned that Yuki loves shoes, but isn't very practical with his purchases because he'll just buy whatever size is available, even if it's not his own size. So Pierre will obviously be missed. And also Pierre said that what he learned the most from Yuki is food. Duh. Gasonoda will be so missed though, and I hope they retain their relationship off track and we still get some sort of Gasonoda content. And then, of course, there's Seb. So first of all, they changed the opening credits to the race. So they moved him after Max. So he was the last driver shown in the montage. I guess as a tribute to his last race ever. Insert welling eyes emoji. Also, after the national anthem, all the drivers lined up in like a guard of honor, I think it's called. And Seb went through and shook everyone's hands. And it was so cute. And I'm crying again thinking about it. The welling eyes emoji has swiftly turned into the sobbing eyes emoji. Also, of course, there was Norbert Vettel dancing and crying all over the track. He's such a cute man. He's such a cute little man. Both of Seb's old teams gave tributes to him. He came over to the Ferrari garage and took a picture with everyone, including Charles and Carlos. He also got a tribute from the Red Bull garage and took a picture with everyone. And then at the Grand Prix Drivers Association meeting, the entire grid, all of the drivers struck one last pose together and did the Seb winning pose with like the number 1 up in the air. Also, Seb organized a track run and like 200 people showed up. Stefano Domenicali was there. Mick was there. And I think he ran the whole lap next to Seb. Charles was also there, but it's rumored that he just took the picture and left. He didn't actually run. Also, I think they handed out the Donkey Seb shirts of that. We also got a few more driver stories. Like last week, we talked about how Daniel remembered Seb checking in with him several times throughout this year and just being like a really good friend. Fernando and Lewis have really been like throwing it back this weekend to all of their moments with Seb. Lewis talked a lot about how they've grown as men, yada yada yada. Fernando said that Seb's legacy will always be intertwined with his own. Just like nice things. And then like one of my favorite stories though was Max said that last year, after he had to go to the hospital in Silverstone, when he got back to his motorhome, Seb was there waiting for him to check in and see how he was feeling. Like, what? Like, talk about a subtle Seb moment. It's just so cute. But, like, a moment ago, I talked about how they all did the number one pose when they took a group photo. But another pose that has been circulating, like, in one-offs in group photos was the, like, from Lion King when he lifts Simba up. And like Fernando did it once, Charles did it once, Seb did it once, and everyone's laughing every time one of them does it. And like, I don't. Does anyone know what this inside joke is? I don't understand. What are they holding up? If anyone knows, please let me know. All right. Lap 5, driver's dinner. Okay, so all I've wanted to talk about for the last week is this driver's dinner. This is literally all my wildest dreams coming true. So for anyone who missed it, the drivers all went to dinner together, in case that wasn't obvious from the name of the lap. They all went out the Thursday before the big race in Abu Dhabi. We found out, I guess, as it was happening or right after, as the drivers began posting the group picture they took outside the restaurant, which was already everything. This like full group photo they were all sharing. And then Lando.jpg finally put his newfound skills to use and DJ the dinner. Just kidding. He posted a picture of the table, so now we also know the seating arrangement. I've never in a million years thought I'd be grateful to Lando.jpg, but I am. So there is so much to discuss. Okay, first let's talk about the group photo, which hit the internet which hit the internet first. Let's discuss outfits. 1. Why are they all matching? They're doing that boy band thing where they all are like in the same color palette. So they all look good together. Okay, so everyone's wearing like white, gray, black in different variations. The 2 exceptions to this rule are Fernando and Guan Yu, who are both wearing dark green on the top. I think Guan Yu's is a bit brighter, but they're both wearing green. And Lewis and Pierre are both wearing purple. Pierre's is obviously just like a purple t-shirt and white jeans. Lewis had to take it a step further with like dark purple silk cargo pants and a purple silk shirt. Whatever. Everyone looks cool. Everyone just goes together. It just flows. Now let's talk about where they're standing, because front and center is Lewis and Checo, arm in arm. What is happening? Max is like hidden in the back. He's just hanging out with Mick. He's not even hanging out with his friends. He's just somewhere in the back. And is he in a fight with everyone? Is Mick the only nice one to talk to him? Why is he there? But that's not actually relevant. That might not be important. But really, it's the fact that Lewis and Checo are arm in arm that I like lost my mind. And everyone looks really happy, by the way. Everyone looks like they are thrilled to be there. Okay. Now, let's talk about the seating arrangements. First of all, okay, I'm just going to walk you through the whole. So it's a long rectangle. Okay, so at the head of the table is Lance. To his right goes Kevin, Mick, Seb, Lewis, Carlos, Checo, Fernando, Guan Yu, Yuki, Pierre. Pierre is at the head of the opposite end head. To Pierre's left, it goes Daniel, Lando, Charles, Valtteri, George, Nicholas Latifi, Alex Albon, Max, Esteban, and now we're back to the other head of the table. Okay, first of all, Max feels like he's in a very random place. Didn't know he was friends with Esteban. I actually thought he was a pussy, but maybe he's over that. Didn't know he's like really chummy with Mick during this dinner. Is Mick his like comfort space. Seb is obviously neutral. Lewis is very close to Max. I was actually surprised how close Lewis is to Max. Max is also next to Alex, and Alex is just a notoriously nice guy. And then all of the Spaniards are next to each other. So it goes Carlos, Checo, Fernando. Guan Yu and Yuki, the two drivers with the best taste in food, are next to each other. Obviously, Pierre and Yuki are next to each other. Basically, it looks like all of the drivers are next to their teammates, or at least on the same half of the table as their teammates. The two exceptions to this rule are Esteban and Fernando, who are on opposite ends of the table, and Max and Checo, who are also on opposite ends of the table. Interesting. Is anyone else interested? I'm interested. Why? Why are they sitting? But the known rivalries on the grid are Esteban and Fernando, Esteban and Pierre, Max and Checo, Max and Lewis. Max and Lewis are the most talked about out of all of these. And yet, for anyone doubting their maturity, they are the closest to each other. Just saying. Anyways, I'm still not over how far away some of these people are, and obviously it means everything, and I'm reading very deeply into it, as should all of you. This means a lot. I did think it was so now let's talk about the purpose of this dinner, which is that it was to celebrate Seb, basically. And the rumor is that Lewis organized and paid for the entire dinner as a farewell to Seb. He even posted a solo shot with Seb saying how much he respects him as a man. Yada yada. I did enjoy Lando.jpg's joke. When he spoke to Sky Sports, he said, everyone was saying that Lewis took us out to dinner, but it was actually me. I fed them what I had in Brazil. And to those who don't remember, Lando got horrible food poisoning in Brazil. So, good one, Lando. Another thing to note about the group photo outside the restaurant is they're all holding these little folders, which was a big mystery for a while, but it seems there's been some sleuthing, and the current consensus is that it's actually a gift from Seb, and within that little folder is like a note from Seb encouraging drivers to find life outside the track and to embrace their position in terms of influence and to use it for good. Like, basically, too long didn't read. I think it was like, do good for society. And if like anyone else said this, literally anyone else, they would probably grind my gears. But it's so subtle and so sweet and just so Seb. I fully accept it. And I can't wait to see all the philanthropic activities all these drivers pick up next year as Seb requested. Also need to note, everyone posted about this dinner except for Max. However, Max did do a lengthy solo tribute to Seb, so I forgive him, but it wouldn't hurt him to show like, woohoo, I have fun with my friends. So now that we know the purpose and who organized and who paid and yada yada yada, one question remains, and in my mind, this is the most important question. Did Lewis consult Yuki when he chose this restaurant? And if he did not, which would be a big mistake, then was the food good? Did Yuki approve? Did Yuki enjoy his meal? No one commented on the quality of the food, and that's actually my number one concern. I just need to know how Yuki feels about all food at all times. So if we haven't gotten this answer yet, or if this exists somewhere, please share with me, because I would really like to get to the bottom of Yuki's contribution to restaurant choice / his opinion on the food. Thanks. Okay, lap 6, F1 London stories. So before I finish off with all the post-season content that we actually had a chance to get, I was in London for the last couple of weeks, and oddly, I did pick up on a lot of F1 stories, or I have a lot of F1 stories now, despite having very limited access to watching the actual F1. Everyone knows about it. So, Also, I was told it's a like solo activity in the UK. Like you just watch by yourself, which sounds sad. Why does football get the like group activity thing, but F1 you have to watch huddled up alone? Don't know. Anyway, wanted to share the couple of stories I picked up while in London. First, one of my relatives was a translator. And like 20 years ago, she attended a Grand Prix in Germany where she met Michael Schumacher. And when they got there, when they landed, the guy she was supposed to be translating for was demanding a Jaguar. A Jaguar? Jaguar? The car, not the animal. And I don't know if this is still true, but apparently at the time, Jaguars were custom made and they, like, you don't just have like a Jaguar lying around to hand off to random oligarchs demanding Jaguars. So they told him this is impossible. And he continued to demand it. And then he opened the suitcase he was with, and inside were just stacks of American money. I think he got the Jaguar. Yep. Um, Also, fun story. I was working from this like hotel lobby slash work remote workspace. And there were two guys in front of me having like a business meeting, and I started to overhear like random F1 words like F1, Red Bull, Mercedes, Christian. And finally, like one of them left, and I, after a couple of drinks, I got up the courage to be like, "Hi, excuse me. I couldn't help but overhear that you guys are talking about F1. Do you work in F1? Like, what do you do? That's really cool." And so basically, he told me that he runs like an events and social media company that helps with F1 events, and the other guy is a direct consultant to Stefano Domenicali, as in Stefano, the F1 president. How wild is that? They were just like right in front of me. It was very cool. I really should have asked a lot of follow-up questions, but it took me a while to recover from like talking to him at all. So maybe next time, but it was very exciting for me. And then my last story is, so one of my friends from uni, her parents were at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and apparently they had tickets to Austria pre-pandemic, and since obviously it was canceled and they couldn't go, F1 just gave them like a voucher to go to any Grand Prix they wanted. But like, okay, so that makes sense to replace Austria with Abu Dhabi, but okay, that's amazing. Anyway, so her parents were staying in the same hotel as Ferrari, and her dad DM'd me and said that he and his wife were in a lift and Charles was trying to get in, like Charles Leclerc. But the lift was pretty full, so Charles was like, "Oh, I'll just wait for the next one." But my friend's dad, who by the way, just imagine a large man from the north of England, just goes to Charles, "Don't worry." I'm not going to do a northern accent, but imagine a northern accent. "Don't worry, I won't touch your arse." I guess I did do a northern accent. Ish. But yeah, he said, "Don't worry, I won't touch your ass." And Charles laughed and got in the lift. A, what a line. B, what an experience. Um, C, he made Charles laugh. Maybe that's why Charles did so well, because Shannon's dad added joy to his life. Also, I asked him if Charles was as pretty in real life as he appears online, and he said, "My wife says yes." But I feel like Charles is objectively beautiful, and anyone can agree to that. Right, right. Anyway, that's my little F1 tidbits from London. Um, yeah. Okay, lap 7 postseason content. So, last week, Helmut Marko told Sky Germany that Red Bull had signed Daniel Ricciardo as a reserve driver, but it was kind of weird because, like, I messaged my friend and she's like, "Wait, where's the announcement?" And I was like, "I for sure saw it from a reliable news source." Like, it had been reported by like Sky F1, ESPN, um, WTF1, like all of these places that usually are very reliable were reporting this, but there was nothing from Red Bull or Daniel. And at the team principal's press conference in Abu Dhabi, Christian elaborated that there had been talks and it was like basically agreed upon, but nothing had been signed yet. There were still like some last minute things they were trying to agree upon. And he basically was like, Helmut got a little too excited and just like went ahead with the announcement before it was ready. Which is funny, but also can I just ask what it is about all these old dudes running these teams where they just like feel like they can go out there and say whatever they want? Like first Otmar and now Helmet. Like can you at least check with the person you're talking about before you go out and say a statement? Like you're not just like you can't just say whatever you want. Anyway, the announcement finally came after the race weekend via a video of Christian and Daniel in Red Bull gear. They're like posing for a photo and then Christian like tweaks Daniel's nipple. Charming. But this seems like the ideal scenario for Daniel because I think one of the big deciding factors for him to agree to Red Bull's offer was that he not have to attend every single race. I think he was actually pretty insistent that he needed time to himself and to take a break from the track and to like recuperate. But it was kind of cute when he mentioned this in an interview with Lando that he wasn't going to be at every single race next year. Lando genuinely looked so confused by the concept. Um, like he was like, "What do you mean you're not going to be at every race? Where else would you be?" And I think we're all still like grappling with the idea that Daniel won't be there every weekend. But I do think it's a great move for him in regards to his like mental health and like a future in F1. He like needs that break. Also, after this is one of my favorite moments. After the GP, Nick DeVries was tied to like one of those travel gurneys, like by the Mercedes team with like plastic ties, and wheeled over to Alpine. Mercedes is like, "We're delivering him on loan," which is hilarious. Also, they are very far apart. It was such a trek. They had to walk through like the entire paddock. Um, and also the most impressive part is that Nick was holding a can of Heineken the entire time and it never tipped over. Like not as he like sat down and lied back down to be tied up, not as he was lifted back into the air, placed back down again. Heineken stayed upright the whole time. Also, someone tried to get a picture with him as he's being wheeled. They're like, "Can I have a picture?" And the engineer was like, "Can't really say no, can he?" Also, testing started the very next day. We saw Fernando in Aston colors, Nick in AlphaTauri colors, Pierre in Alpine. Oscar Piastri made his McLaren debut, and I honestly forgot Oscar Piastri existed. Like at all. Like I've been obsessing over Nick DeVries. I haven't thought about Oscar once. Um, Also the fact that his name is Oscar, all I can think of is like Oscar Mayer sausages. And that's like not an image that I really care to think about much. Um, but his performance during testing was almost on par with Lando.jpg. So that should make for a very interesting season at McLaren next year. And Logan Sargent made his Williams debut. We also saw behind the scenes shot of him shooting Drive to Survive. And it was like, you know, that shot where he's walking down the paddock and they're like following him and he's doing like in his new uniform. And you just know that that is going to be the closing shot of the next season. That is going to be the final shot before it cuts to black. Anyways, so beyond testing and drivers, remember last year like there was all those crazy party pictures that came out as they were all celebrating or drowning their sorrows in alcohol and DJ music. I was expecting that again, but it didn't really happen. The only picture we got, or the only picture I could find, was Christian, Max, and Seb all holding various forms of alcohol. Seb had a nice little glass of white wine. The rest, I think, were holding like gin and tonics or whatever. And they're all like in their casual clothes. Like Max and Christian are wearing t-shirts. Seb is wearing this like patterned shirt with like the headbands still there. Just like very dirty hipster vibes. And it's such a wholesome picture because Christian is literally beaming from ear to ear. Because to be honest, his entire career kind of is thanks to these two. Like they together have made Red Bull what it is. Three of them, Red Bull royalty. All that's missing is Helmut Marko, but no one wants Helmut Marko at a party. Let's be honest. Also, a couple of days ago, Carlos posted a video of him and Charles on the floor of the Ferrari paddock, like leaning on some metal lockers. And this, by the way, is like 4 days after everything's done. So Carlos is watching football on his laptop, and Charles was asleep with his neck in like a very precarious position. It looked like he tried to prop it up with like a flimsy sweatshirt, tag still on, so it's just random merch that he found lying around. He's like using it to try to prop up his head, but there's nothing propping up his head. All that work on his neck just going to waste. Um, Meanwhile, as they're posting this, Pierre posted that he's at the France game in Qatar. Like, why are Carlos and Charles still there? Why won't Ferrari let them leave? They look like they've been kidnapped and are being held hostage. It straight up the other than the Ferrari red, this looks like the exact same like setup as Lawrence Stroll's hostage interview about the pink Mercedes. Um, it just looks very ominous and weird. Like, let them leave. um Anyway, looks like we've set the stage for next year as much as we can at this point. I'm super excited to dive deeper as the 2023 season comes closer. But with that, I guess we conclude the digital debrief. Do do do. Still doesn't work. All right. That's it for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the 2022 F1 season. It has been a blast. There are a few episodes I plan to do during the off season, including that Seb episode I promised ages ago. And I also want to do an episode looking back at some of the best moments of the season, some of our favorites. I am sure to forget some, so please message me your favorite moments, on track, off track, rumors, gossip, episode moments, anything to include in my 2022 review episode. And if you've got some other episode requests, send them my way and I'll add them to the roster. But for the moment, I guess I'm gonna say box box.